Sometimes, just before everything shifts in your favor, life will hit you with its hardest punch. You'll feel pressure from all sides, battles you never saw coming, opposition you can't explain. But hear me now, that sudden resistance is not random. It's not just life being unfair. It's a spiritual indicator, a sign that God is about to move. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. He doesn't waste time attacking people who are standing still. If you're facing resistance, heavy, unusual, pressing resistance, it could be because you're on the edge of something God ordained. Right before the blessing breaks through, the battle often intensifies. Right before the shift comes, confusion tries to cloud your mind. Right before the door opens, it can feel like every other door slams shut. And that's not a coincidence, it's confirmation. Look through Scripture and you'll see it again and again. Before Israel entered the Promised Land, they faced giants. Before David sat on the throne, he was hunted like an animal. Before Jesus rose from the dead, there was a cross. Resistance precedes resurrection. Pressure comes before promotion. The devil shows up loudest when God is about to act strongest. And what you're facing right now might not be a setback. It could be the sound of a breakthrough being born. There's a kind of resistance that feels personal. It shows up in your emotions, in your mind, in your relationships. Everything starts to feel heavy. You're tempted to doubt the very thing you were once so sure of. But that pressure is often a birthing pain. You're being pushed, not to crush you, but to position you. Because the shift that's coming isn't small, it's divine. And God won't let you step into it half ready. So he allows the pressure not to destroy you, but to refine you. Think about it, when a rocket breaks through the atmosphere, the pressure is greatest at the point of breakthrough. That's the threshold moment. You're closer than you think. And that's why everything is hitting you at once, not because you're losing, but because you're almost there. The enemy can sense that your season is about to change. He knows something's shifting in the spirit. So he throws distraction, discouragement, doubt, anything to get you to quit right before it happens. But God never wastes a battle. What feels like resistance is really training. He's strengthening your faith and your dependence and preparing your hands for the weight of the blessing. You don't build muscle in comfort, you build it under resistance. And right now, some of the very things you think are trying to destroy you are actually building you. You're getting stronger, wiser, sharper, more aware. God is refining your vision, aligning your heart, and making sure that when the shift comes, you'll know how to carry it. So don't let the resistance fool you. Don't misinterpret the struggle. The harder the pushback, the closer the shift. Your prayers haven't been ignored, they've been working. Your faith hasn't been wasted, it's been growing. And the spiritual resistance you're feeling is just the signpost. Something is moving in the unseen. And soon, what God has been orchestrating behind the scenes is going to be revealed in your life. Stay rooted in truth. Keep declaring the promise. Keep speaking life when everything around you is silent. Because the moment you feel like giving up could be the very moment the shift was about to happen. But walk away from the edge of your breakthrough. Don't stop when the resistance rises, lean in. That pressure might be the signal that the next chapter is moments away. Your job isn't to make the shift happen, it's to stand firm until it does. Let the winds blow, let the storms rise. You weren't built to break. You were built to endure. And God is not a man that he should lie. If he promised a shift, if he spoke favor over your life, if he declared victory, then nothing can stop it. Not the resistance, not the delay, not even your doubts. His word will not return void. And when the shift comes, when that favor falls like rain, you'll look back at this resistance and realize it was the final confirmation that everything was about to change. Have you ever felt a stirring in your spirit you couldn't explain? A kind of restlessness that makes you uncomfortable in places where you used to feel settled. You look around and nothing has really changed, yet everything inside you feels like it has. You start to sense that something is shifting, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Let me tell you, that kind of restlessness is not just emotion. It's not frustration for the sake of frustration. It's the Holy Spirit stirring you, preparing you, prompting you, because God is getting ready to shift everything in your favor. Restlessness is often a divine signal. Before God changes your environment, he often shifts your heart. He begins to uproot the things that kept you comfortable so you can no longer stay where you were. What once satisfied you begins to feel empty. The places where you felt planted now feel tight. You're not broken, you're being moved. You're not lost, you're being led. That unrest in your spirit, that's heaven's way of saying, get ready. In the Bible, we see this pattern over and over. Before Abraham could step into his promise, God told him to leave everything familiar. Before Moses led a nation out of bondage, he had to feel the weight of that burden burning inside him. Before Jesus began his public ministry, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, not for comfort, but for preparation. And often that inner restlessness you feel is the wilderness moment. It's not punishment, it's positioning. There comes a moment when the nest gets too small for the eagle. The mother eagle begins to remove the soft lining so the young eagle no longer finds comfort in staying put. It's a painful process, but a necessary one, because the eaglet was never meant to stay in the nest, it was meant to soar. And in the same way, God will begin to make your current situation uncomfortable, not to harm you, but to push you toward your purpose. The problem is we often try to silence that restlessness. We busy ourselves, we numb ourselves, we talk ourselves out of it. But what if that discomfort is the doorway to your next season? What if that internal nudge is heaven's way of saying it's time to grow? It's time to move. It's time to expect more than what you've been settling for. Because you can't receive the shift God wants to give you if you're clinging to what used to feel safe. When God is about to shift everything in your favor, he starts by shifting your desire. The things that used to excite you lose their pull. The dreams you once chased no longer seem fulfilling. That's not because you're failing, it's because you're evolving. God is lifting your vision. He's maturing your faith. He's preparing you for something that will require more of you, more trust, more obedience, more surrender. Don't be afraid of the unknown. That unease is not chaos, it's alignment. God doesn't stir your heart for no reason. If he's making you restless, it's because he's preparing the right door, the right moment, the right opportunity. The same God who's making you uncomfortable now is the same God who's setting the stage for your next breakthrough. That inner stirring is the sign that something bigger is coming. Pay attention to your spirit. Sometimes your mind won't understand what your heart already knows. Sometimes God will speak through what you feel before he shows you what to do. And if you keep trying to go back to what was, you might miss what's about to be. The shift in your spirit is often the first sign of the shift in your season. That's why you feel disconnected from your old rhythm. That's why what used to fit no longer feels right. Because you're not meant to stay where you are. God is calling you higher. You might not see the full picture yet. You might not know where this restlessness is leading. But trust the one who stirred it in you. Trust the God who disrupts your comfort to launch you into calling. The shift is closer than you think, and this discomfort is just the evidence that he's already started the work. There's something deeply unsettling about closed doors, especially when we believe those were the doors God was going to open. You prayed, you prepared, you waited with expectation, and just when it seemed like things were lining up, the opportunity vanished. The door slammed shut. The relationship ended. The job offer disappeared. The answer was no. And in those moments, it's easy to question everything, your faith, your direction, your identity. But what if I told you that those closed doors are not a rejection from God, but a redirection? When God is about to shift everything in your favor, one of the first signs is this: doors begin to close. Not because you're disqualified, not because you're forgotten, but because he's clearing the way for something greater. You see, if you walked through every door you thought was good, you'd miss the one that was God ordained. Sometimes the only way God can get your attention is by allowing something to end. We often don't realize how attached we become to something until it's taken from us. It might have been a good place, a good connection, a good season, but it wasn't the best. And the difference between good and God is everything. God doesn't close doors out of cruelty, he closes them out of care. He knows what you can't see. He hears conversations you never will. He sees motives, timing, and outcomes before they unfold. That closed door may have saved you from heartbreak, confusion, or delay that would have derailed your destiny. In the moment, it feels like loss, it feels like rejection. But heaven sees it as protection. And if you can learn to trust God's no as much as his yes, you'll begin to see those closed doors as evidence that he's involved in every detail of your story. Think of Joseph. He had a dream from God, a vision of influence, leadership, and purpose. But instead of walking through open doors, he was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and locked in a prison. Every chapter of his life looked like a closed door, but each one led him closer to the promise. Had he stayed comfortable in his father's house, he never would have stood in Pharaoh's palace. The prison was the hallway that led to the promotion. And sometimes what feels like a dead end is actually a divine detour. Closed doors test your trust. They challenge your pride. They force you to look up when you'd rather look around. But they also create space. When a door closes, you're being released from something that can no longer serve where you're going. You're not being left behind, you're being moved ahead. The shift in your life doesn't always start with an invitation. Sometimes it starts with a closed exit. You might not understand it right now. You might still be standing in front of that door wondering why it had to end, why it didn't work out, why it slipped through your hands. But trust this, God wastes nothing. That door didn't close because you weren't enough. It closed because something better is on its way. And when God shifts things in your favor, He doesn't just open new doors, He shuts the wrong ones firmly and fully so you're not tempted to go backward. That's why the shutdown is necessary. The denied opportunity, the ended friendship, the job that didn't call back, the plan that fell apart, it was all part of His design. Because when God is about to bless you, He removes everything that could block it. And it may feel painful in the moment, but it's purposeful in the long run. He's not just preparing the door for you, He's preparing you for the door. So walk away from what He's closed with peace. Stop trying to force it open. Stop replaying what didn't happen. What God has for you is still in motion, and sometimes the shift begins with subtraction because the favor that's coming can't fit through the doors that are already shut. And when the right one opens, it won't just be a door, it'll be a divine signal that this was what the resistance, the restlessness, and the preparation were all leading toward. There's a certain kind of delay that can break your heart if you don't understand it. You pray. You fast, you believe. And then nothing. Time passes. Doors stay closed. Answers don't come. You're stuck in the waiting room of life while it feels like everyone else is walking into their breakthrough. You begin to wonder if you heard God wrong. You ask yourself, did I miss it? Did I mess it up? But the truth is, when God is about to shift everything in your favor, the delay is not denial, it's divine preparation. We live in a world that values speed. We want everything instantly. If it doesn't happen quickly, we assume it's not going to happen at all. But God doesn't work on our timeline. He's not concerned with fast, He's concerned with faithful. Because what He's preparing for you is too important to rush. God's timing is perfect and His process is intentional. The delay you're facing is not God forgetting about you, it's God forming you. Every delay has a purpose. God is developing your character, refining your motives, teaching you patience, and aligning the right people, the right place, and the right moment for the shift. You see, there's something greater at stake than just giving you what you asked for. God is preparing you to sustain the blessing once it comes. What good is favor if it crushes you? What good is a door if you're not ready to walk through it? Think of David. He was anointed king as a teenager, but he didn't sit on the throne until years later. In the meantime, he was chased, hidden, and misunderstood. But all of that wasn't wasted. It shaped him. It humbled him. It trained him. The delay was the classroom where he learned to trust God's hand even when he couldn't trace His plan. And when the time came, David didn't just step into kingship, he stepped into it with wisdom, strength, and spiritual maturity. Or consider Jesus, the Son of God. He waited 30 years before stepping into public ministry. 30 years of being hidden, living in the background, not rushing ahead of the Father's timing. Why? Because there's power in preparation, there's power in patience. And if the Son of God could wait, so can we. The delay doesn't mean the miracle isn't coming. It just means God is making sure everything lines up in the right way. You may not see it, but while you're waiting, heaven is working. While you're sitting in stillness, God is arranging a shift so big, so meaningful, that it requires your full transformation to carry it. And that kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. We want the promise, but we forget that every promise comes with a process. And sometimes the waiting season is the most sacred part of your journey. That's where intimacy with God is built. That's where trust becomes real. When you have no evidence that it's working, and yet you still praise, still serve, still believe, that's when your roots go deep. That's when your faith matures. That's when you stop chasing outcomes and start clinging to the one who controls them. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's frustrating, but let that frustration push you closer to God, not further. Ask him what he's teaching you, not just what he's withholding. Because you're not being punished, you're being positioned. And if you rush the process, you could miss the purpose. God doesn't just want to bless you, he wants to build you into the kind of person who can carry the weight of that blessing without losing your peace, your identity, or your integrity. Don't misread the silence. Don't confuse delay with abandonment. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. God's delays are not dead ends, they're divine detours meant to prepare, protect, and promote you in the right season. When the time is right, nothing will be able to stop what God has ordained. But until then, let the delay do its work. Let it shape your faith. Let it deepen your roots. Let it prepare your spirit. Because when the shift comes, it will make sense why you had to wait this long. Sometimes the favor of God doesn't show up in the places you expect. It doesn't always come from the people you know or the doors you've been knocking on or the paths you carefully planned. Sometimes when God is about to shift everything in your favor, he brings unexpected favor from unlikely places. It surprises you. It humbles you. And it reminds you that he is not limited by what's familiar. He's sovereign over everything. You might be waiting for someone specific to bless you. Maybe you've put your hope in a certain opportunity or a certain person or a certain route to get you to your breakthrough. But when God decides to move, he often does it in a way that makes it clear no one else could have done this but him. That's the beauty of divine favor. It bypasses logic. It jumps over rank, title, resume, and experience. Favor will put your name in rooms you've never entered. Favor will open doors you didn't even knock on. Favor will bring provision, support, and access from people you've never even met. Think about Ruth. She was a foreigner, a widow, and an outsider. By natural standards, she didn't qualify for much. But favor found her in the fields of Boaz. God aligned her steps in such a way that she was noticed, seen, and chosen not because she had status, but because she had purpose. And what started as survival ended in legacy. That's how favor works. It turns ordinary moments into supernatural movements. Look at Joseph again. He was a prisoner in a foreign land with no reason to be noticed. But when Pharaoh needed a dream interpreted, Joseph was called. In one day, he went from the prison to the palace. That's not skill, that's favor. And when favor is on your life, even your enemies can't stop it. Even your past can't disqualify it. Even your current position can't limit it. Favor will find you no matter where you are. And it will elevate you for reasons that only heaven can explain. Some of the people God is going to use to bless you won't even realize they're being used. They'll think it was their idea. But it's God moving through them. He'll put your name on their heart. He'll cause them to think of you, to call you, to include you, to open a door for you, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. Favor will do more in a moment than effort can do in years. And sometimes you won't even see it coming. That's why you can't limit God to your current circle. Don't assume the next big shift has to come from the same people or places you've already known. God might send a stranger, a connection out of nowhere, a new open door that wasn't even on your radar. The point is, when he decides it's your time, he doesn't need permission from anyone. He doesn't consult your history to determine your destiny. He simply speaks and things move. Be open to the unexpected. Don't overlook small opportunities or unfamiliar places. Sometimes the favor that changes your life forever looks like a simple conversation, a random encounter, or an unlikely invitation. And when you see it, don't take the credit. Recognize the hand of God in the details. See his fingerprints all over the favor. Let it remind you that he has eyes on you even when you feel hidden. He has a plan for you, even when you feel lost. And he has already prepared people to help you in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. You don't have to chase favor. You don't have to beg for it or manipulate your way into it. Favor is something God gives when your heart is aligned with his will. It's grace, undeserved and unearned. And when it shows up, especially in unexpected places, you'll know this isn't random. This isn't luck. This is a divine shift, so be encouraged. Just because you don't see a way doesn't mean God hasn't already made one. The favor you need is already being prepared. The connections, the open doors, the provision, it's all in motion. And when it shows up, it will remind you once again, God knows exactly where you are, and He's about to shift everything in your favor. Sometimes when you're right on the edge of breakthrough, the pressure increases. The enemy fights harder, the doubts get louder, and everything seems to go wrong all at once. That's not a coincidence, it's confirmation. When God is about to shift everything in your favor, the enemy will often launch his final attacks to shake your faith, your focus, and make you question the very thing God has spoken over your life. But here's the truth. Your greatest opposition usually comes right before your greatest shift. Spiritual warfare intensifies before spiritual promotion. Why? Because the enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. He's not going to waste his weapons on someone who isn't carrying purpose. If you're being attacked, it's because there's something on your life that hell is trying to stop. The devil isn't afraid of your past. He's afraid of your future. He knows what's coming if you keep believing, keep standing, keep obeying. So try to wear you down in the waiting, discourage you in the delay, and tempt you to give up right before things turn around. You see, before elevation, there's often agitation. The shift God is preparing for you will disrupt the enemy's plan. So don't be surprised when resistance rises. It's not proof that God has abandoned you. It's proof that something powerful is about to break forth. That pressure you feel, it's not the end, it's birth pains. Something is being birthed in the spirit, and you're closer than you think. Speak of Job. He lost almost everything, his health, his wealth, his family, and his peace. But even in the middle of all that loss, God never left him. And in the end, God restored to Job double what he lost. The enemy tried to destroy him, but God used the very trial to elevate him. That's the kind of reversal that happens when the shift comes. What the enemy meant for evil, God turns around for your good. And let's not forget Jesus. Before the resurrection came the cross. Before the glory came the suffering. Before the name above every name came betrayal, mockery, and death. The enemy thought he won when Jesus was buried, but God was only beginning. And that same pattern repeats in our lives. Just when it looks like all hope is lost, that's when the tomb rolls away and the stone is removed. That's when resurrection power shows up. That's when the shift is undeniable. So if you're under attack, take heart. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And when the pressure comes, don't retreat, dig deeper. This is the time to pray more, not less. This is the moment to worship louder, not quieter. Because worship in the face of warfare confuses the enemy. He expects you to break. He expects you to fall apart. But when you praise through pain and trust through tears, you send a clear message: I know who I belong to, and I know who fights for me. God is not unaware of your struggle. He sees every battle, every burden, every tear. And He's not going to let the enemy win. The shift in your favor has already been declared in heaven. It's only a matter of time before you see it manifest on earth. But you have to stay in position. Stay in alignment. Stay in faith. Because the enemy can't stop what God has ordained unless you give up before it happens. That's why spiritual endurance is so important. The finish line might be one more prayer away. The breakthrough might be one act of obedience away. The favor might be one faithful moment away. Don't let what you feel right now cause you to forfeit what God has already promised. The pressure is real, yes, but so is the promise. Remember, darkness always intensifies before the dawn, but light always wins. God is not only shifting things around you, He's strengthening things within you. And the very attacks that were meant to break you will become the evidence of God's power and faithfulness in your story. They won't be your defeat, they'll be your testimony. So don't run from the battle. Don't let the storm convince you the shift isn't coming. Hold your ground. Raise your shield. Because the battle you're fighting now is proof that heaven is moving, and the favor of God is about to be revealed in your life in ways you never imagined.